I stood in that hospital room, watching my wife cradle a newborn baby in her arms. The room was warm, full of smiles and tears. But I didn't step closer. I didn't reach out to touch him. My mother and Claire's mother hovered nearby, whispering blessings, crying at the miracle of life. But to me, it felt like a funeral. Something had already died. When the nurse walked in with a clipboard and said, "Mr. Reynolds, I need your signature on the birth certificate." I didn't smile. I didn't move. I looked at the nurse, then at Claire, the woman I had trusted with everything, and said, calm and clear, "I'll sign it after we get the DNA test results, because I'm not sure that child is mine." The air froze. My mother gasped. Claire's mother dropped the flowers in her hands, and Claire's head snapped toward me so fast the baby stirred. Her eyes widened. Her lips trembled, and the color drained from her face. She whispered, "Mark, what are you saying? You think I cheated on you?" I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. My voice was steady as stone. "I don't think you cheated. I know you did. And before I put my name on anything, I need proof that this child belongs to me." Her hands shook. She pulled the baby closer like I was some kind of threat. Her mother, Margaret, tried to step in. "Mark, please. Don't be cruel. Not here. Not now. The baby just came into the world." I turned to her, my voice sharp but calm. "Do you want to know the name of the man your daughter texted?" Claire's eyes filled with panic. She whispered, "Don't." But I did. "Ryan Cooper." Her body jerked like I'd slapped her. She stammered, "That's not true. I don't have anything to do with him." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the folded piece of paper I had carried for weeks. I held it high so everyone could see. "Then why?" I said slowly. "Did you send him this?" I read aloud, "My husband must never know about us. I want nothing to do with you anymore." The words dropped like a bomb. Her mother covered her mouth in shock. My mother sank into a chair as though her knees could no longer hold her up. Claire's face went pale, her lips trembling, her tears spilling onto the blanket wrapped around the child. She clutched like a shield, her voice cracked. "Desperate. How did you get that?" I let the paper hang loose at my side. "Ryan sent it to me himself. Screenshots. Receipts. He wanted me to know." She shook her head, shaking so hard the baby whimpered, her voice barely a whisper. "He said no one would ever find out." That hit me harder than I expected. Not just the betrayal, but the casual way she said it, like it was a teenage mistake. A secret game between lovers. Not the bomb that blew our marriage apart. My jaw tightened. My mother whispered, "Oh my God." Claire's mother begged her, "Tell me it isn't true. Claire, please." But she didn't. She couldn't. Her silence was the loudest confession of all. I stepped closer, my voice like a knife. "So you did sleep with him?" She flinched. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed into the hospital chair, clutching the baby as if he was the last thing left to hold on to. Tears streaked her face, but I didn't move to comfort her. I just stood there, unshaken, watching every lie she'd ever told me crumble in front of both our families. And in that moment, everyone in that room knew the truth had finally come out, and nothing would ever be the same again. The room was heavy with silence. Claire sat trembling in the chair, clutching the baby like a shield, her face streaked with tears she could no longer hide. Her mother stood beside her, whispering words she couldn't even hear. My mother sat frozen, staring at me like she no longer recognized the man in front of her. I finally broke the silence. My voice was calm, deliberate. "I've known about her affair for months." Claire's head snapped up, eyes wide, mouth trembling. "What?" Her mother's hands tightened on her shoulders. My mother's jaw clenched, disbelief written all over her face. I nodded slowly. "Since April." Ryan didn't hide it. He gave me the first message himself. Then the screenshots, the late-night calls, hotel receipts with your name on them. "Claire, I've seen it all, and I've carried it in silence while you carried that child." Her face collapsed. She shook her head, whispering over and over, "No. No. No." But there was no strength in her denial anymore. I continued, voice steady as steel. "Do you know why I didn't expose you sooner? Because you were pregnant?" Because I didn't want to be the man who shattered a woman while she carried life. Even if that life wasn't mine, I chose silence. Not for you, but for the baby. The weight of those words pressed into the room. My mother's hand covered her mouth. Her eyes wet with something between pride and sorrow. Claire's mother gasped softly. Torn between shame and pleading, Claire let out a sob, burying her face in the baby's blanket. Mark. Please. Don't do this here. Not now. We can talk later. We can fix this. I cut her off. Cold and final. There is no fixing this. You broke what can't be repaired. Her mother stepped forward. Desperate. Mark. I'm begging you. The baby is innocent. Don't let your anger destroy him too. Please. Think about forgiveness. Think about counseling. I turned my gaze on her, sharp enough to silence her. Counseling. You want me to sit across from a stranger and listen to how her betrayal is somehow my fault. You want me to believe I failed her, that I pushed her into the arms of another man. Claire's mother flinched at my words. My mother spoke next, her voice low but firm. Son. The child, he may still be yours. Wait for the test before you throw everything away. Don't condemn the innocent for her sins. I looked at her, my voice softer but unshaken. If the child is mine, I will raise him. I will love him. I will give him everything I have. Claire's head lifted, a flicker of hope in her tear-stained eyes. But I didn't let her hold it for long. But if he's not, I paused, letting the words cut deep. Then I walk away. And I don't look back. Because she is no longer my wife. The silence that followed was sharper than any shout. Claire's sobs filled the space. Broken. Desperate. But I didn't move. Her mother clung to her side, whispering words that sounded like apologies. My mother sat stiff, her eyes locked on me with a mix of sorrow and reluctant respect. I turned once more toward Claire. I stayed quiet for the sake of the baby, but now he's here, and so is the truth. From this moment forward, nothing will ever be the same. She shook her head wildly, tears falling fast. No. Mark. Please. I love you. I can explain. But I was already stepping back. I had said what needed to be said. There was no argument left. No excuse strong enough to undo the betrayal that had poisoned every part of our marriage. I straightened my shoulders, looked one last time at the child in her arms, and said quietly, if he's mine, he'll have me. If not, he never will. But as for you, our marriage is over. Her mother let out a cry. My mother wiped her face with trembling hands. Claire broke down, rocking the baby as though motion could rewind time. And me, I didn't flinch. I didn't stumble. I turned and walked out of that hospital room without another word, leaving her sobbing behind me. For the first time in months, I wasn't carrying a secret. I was carrying the truth. And the truth had just split my life in two. 2 weeks later, the house was quiet when the knock came. A courier handed me a thick white envelope, heavy. Heavier than paper should feel. My name written across the front in cold black letters. I already knew what it contained. I had known the answer long before this moment. But still, my hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet. Words clinical. Detached. Like they belonged to another life. Sample A. Probability of paternity 0%. You are not the biological father. I sat at the table for a long time, staring at that sentence. No rage. No tears. Just stillness. Like my soul had packed its bags and walked out. Whatever thin thread of doubt I had carried. Any small hope that maybe, just maybe, I was wrong, was now dead. The truth was no longer suspicion. It was law. It was ink on paper. It was final. I folded the envelope, slid it into my jacket, and drove to Claire's mother's house. The same house where Claire had been hiding since the hospital. A quiet, tidy place that pretended nothing was wrong. When she opened the door and saw me, her face lit up like a child seeing the sun. Relief washed over her features. She whispered, "You came back. I knew it. I told Mom you still loved me. You can't live without me." I raised a hand, stopping her. "Where's your mother?" Her smile faltered. She stepped aside. I walked in. A few steps later, I found them in the living room. Her mother sat stiff in a chair, eyes wary. And my mother was there too, bouncing the baby gently in her arms, whispering as though nothing in the world had been broken. When she saw me, her face brightened. "Look at him. Mark. He has your eyes. He looks just like you. Hold him. Just once. You'll forget everything." I shook my head. Voice sharp but steady. "Don't push it." Her confusion stung. But I didn't stop. I pulled the envelope from my jacket and held it out toward Claire's mother. "Read it aloud," I said, "so everyone hears it." Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper. Her eyes moved across the words, and then her voice cracked. "Sample A. Probability of paternity. Bifangerline. You are not the father." She dropped into her chair, stunned. My mother froze, staring at the page as though reading it again might change the truth. Claire didn't cry, didn't scream. She just stood there, pale, hollow, destroyed. I let the silence stretch. Then I spoke, calm and cold. "This child is not mine. No paper lies the way people do. He is not my son, and Claire is no longer my wife." My mother's lips trembled. Claire's mother clutched her forehead in despair. Claire whispered, "Broken. Mark. Please. I made mistakes. But I can be better. Don't take everything away." I shook my head. "You already did that yourself. You made your choice when you spread your betrayal across hotel rooms and text messages. You made it again when you carried another man's child under my roof. You destroyed what we had. And now, I'm done." Her mother begged, "Mark, please. Don't leave her like this. She needs you. The baby needs you. He's innocent." I looked at the child, still cradled in my mother's arms, small, quiet, eyes that didn't yet understand what storm he had been born into. For the first time, I felt the weight of his silence. He didn't ask for this. He didn't lie. He didn't cheat. He didn't betray anyone. But innocence doesn't erase truth. And truth was all I had left. I turned back to Claire. "I'll file for divorce. Tomorrow. This is over. You are no longer my wife. You will never again be my wife." Her knees buckled. She fell into a chair, clutching her face, whispering no over and over. As though denial could turn back time, my mother spoke then, her voice tight with pain. "Mark. The baby is still family. He needs someone. A mother alone cannot." I cut her off, my voice sharp as glass. "Don't ask me to raise another man's son. Don't ask me to wear the mask of forgiveness when betrayal has carved my life to pieces. I will not do it." No one spoke after that. No one moved. Claire sobbed quietly. Her mother sat slumped in defeat, and my own mother clung to the child as though refusing to let go of a hope that had already died. I stood tall, walked to the door, and placed my hand on the knob. My final words cut through the silence. I gave her my vows. She gave me betrayal. We're finished. And with that, I walked out, leaving behind a broken woman, a shattered family, and a child who would never know the man he almost had for a father. The divorce went through quietly. No shouting in court. No long battles over property. Just signatures on paper and a marriage dissolved. Claire drifted further away after that. Some weeks she would call. Other weeks, she would vanish into silence. Her visits grew shorter, her promises weaker, and soon, it was just me and the boy she left behind. I hadn't wanted it that way. At first, I told myself I would keep my distance. He wasn't mine. The paper said so. My conscience said so. My pride screamed it every time I looked at him. But life has a way of ignoring pride. Life puts a crying baby in your arms at 3 a.m. and dares you not to care. I told myself I was only helping until Claire got her act together. But she never did. Days turned to weeks. Weeks into months. Diapers. Bottles. Midnight fevers. They all became mine. And somewhere in the middle of it all, the boy began to look at me differently. His name was Daniel. That much. At least. Claire had insisted on before she vanished again. Daniel Reynolds. Though he didn't yet know what a last name meant. To him, I was the one who showed up. The one who held him when he cried. The one who never walked away. One evening, after a long day at work, I found myself rocking him to sleep. His small head rested against my chest. His tiny hand gripping my shirt, like letting go would mean losing the world. I stared down at him, at the soft rise and fall of his breath. And I felt something shift inside me, I whispered. Almost against my own will. You're not mine, but maybe you are. Weeks turned into routines. Breakfast messes. Trips to the park. Laughter that I didn't know I had left in me. And slowly, the boy began to speak. His first words weren't mom or dad. They were truck, ball, dog. But then one night, as I tucked him into bed, he reached for me and said it, Dad. The word hit me harder than any court ruling. Harder than any betrayal. I froze. I wanted to correct him. To remind him I wasn't his father. But the way he said it, so certain, so trusting, tore down every wall I had built. After that, it became natural. Dad. Can you read this, Dad? I'm hungry. Dad. Come play. Every time. The word chipped away at the cold distance I had tried to keep. And then came the moment that broke me. It was late. He was tucked in. The room dim. His stuffed dinosaur clutched in one hand. I leaned down to pull the blanket over him, ready to say goodnight, when his voice stopped me, soft, barely a whisper. I'm glad you didn't leave me, even though I'm not yours. The words froze me where I stood. My chest tightened. My throat burned. And I couldn't breathe. He wasn't asking for reassurance. He wasn't fishing for an answer. He was simply speaking a truth bigger than himself. A truth that cut through every ounce of bitterness I had carried. I sat on the edge of his bed, silent tears streaming down my face as he drifted off to sleep. And in that moment, I realized something no test result could ever erase. Love doesn't come from blood. It comes from showing up, from staying when everyone else walks away. Daniel wasn't mine by DNA, but he was mine in every way that mattered. And as I sat there listening to his steady breathing, I knew I had been given a choice. To let betrayal define me forever, or to let this child redefine what family really meant. I chose him that night. For the first time since the day my marriage collapsed, I didn't feel broken. I felt whole, not because of forgiveness for Claire, not because of papers or promises, but because of a boy who had every reason to feel abandoned, yet still chose to call me Dad. And in that choice, he gave me something his mother never could. He gave me back my heart. Life has a cruel way of testing how much one man can carry. Just when I thought the storm had passed, another one arrived. My mother, my rock, my steady hand in the chaos, was gone. Quietly. In her sleep. No suffering. No goodbyes. Just a sudden silence where her voice had always been. I buried her with the same calm she had taught me to carry. Stoic on the outside. Crumbling on the inside. But when I went back to her house to sort through her things, I found something that changed everything. Tucked beneath her pillow was a leather-bound journal. Worn with age. Smelling faintly of lavender and thyme. Page after page in her handwriting. Memories of me as a boy. Stories of my father before the war. But hidden between the lines was another truth. My mother had not only been a soldier's wife, she had been a Marine herself. Gulf War. Logistics unit. And not alone. She had served beside none other than Claire's mother. They had been partners. Sisters in arms. Bound by Semper Fidelis. Always faithful. I froze. Reading her words. She had lived an entire life I never knew. She wrote of battles fought, scars carried, secrets buried, and at the end, in a letter addressed to me, she left one final command. Mark, you've been broken by betrayal, but don't let that betrayal define you. Raise Daniel with pride, not because you have to, but because love is a choice. And one day, open your heart again. Love doesn't make you weak. Forgiveness doesn't make you a fool. It makes you free. I sat there with tears burning my eyes, clutching the journal like it was the last piece of her I had left. And for the first time in months, I felt something shift inside my chest. Maybe she was right. Maybe the boy wasn't just a reminder of betrayal. Maybe he was the doorway to something new. It was a week later that I met Rachel Morgan, a widow, former Marine counselor. She carried her own scars. Ones she didn't hide behind smiles or excuses. We didn't meet in some whirlwind of romance. It was simple. Coffee at a small cafe. Two people who had lost too much and didn't know how to start again. We didn't flirt. We didn't pretend. We talked about grief. About silence. about how hard it was to trust when life had already taken so much. There was no pressure, no promises, just honesty. And somehow, that honesty felt like oxygen. Over time, she began to visit, sometimes to talk, sometimes just to sit in the same room without needing to fill the silence. Daniel warmed to her faster than I expected, maybe because she didn't treat him like a secret, or a mistake, or a burden. She crouched down to his level, listened when he spoke, laughed at his wild stories, and then one evening, as she was leaving, Daniel stopped her at the door. His little voice carried a question that froze both of us. "Are you going to be my mom?" Rachel blinked, caught off guard. She looked at me, then back at him. No nervous laughter, no awkward dodge. She knelt down, brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, and said gently, "I don't know yet, buddy. But I'd be honored if I was." His eyes lit up. He smiled, nodded, and ran back into the living room, as though he had just planted a seed and trusted it would grow. I stood there, silent, heart pounding, because in that moment, I saw it too. The possibility of a new family, not the one betrayal had shattered, but the one love was quietly rebuilding, piece by fragile piece, and for the first time in years, I let myself believe in beginnings again. Peace never lasts long when someone feels entitled to what they've already thrown away. Months after disappearing, Claire came back, not with apologies, not with change, but with a lawyer. Papers were served to my door. She was filing for custody of Daniel. She claimed parental alienation, claimed I had poisoned him against her, claimed the boy had been coached. I didn't yell when I read the accusations. I didn't panic. I just sat down at the table, the same table where I had once opened the DNA results, and felt the weight of another storm. But this time, I wasn't alone. Rachel was beside me, steady as stone, her hand on mine. She looked at the papers and said simply, "She has no idea who she's up against." We hired a lawyer, gathered everything, doctor visits, school records, photographs of Daniel smiling in my arms. But what I didn't expect was the town, neighbors, teachers, even strangers who had watched quietly all along stepped forward. The principal called to offer a statement. Daniel identifies Mr. Reynolds as his father in all behavioral records. The local barista slipped a note across my coffee cup. Everyone knows it. Letters began to arrive. Some typed, some handwritten, from veterans who had served with my mother, from teachers, from parents at Daniel's preschool. One note I'll never forget said, "Blood gives life. Love teaches it how to live." By the time the court date arrived, my lawyer didn't just carry a file. She carried a stack of letters bound together with string. Proof that this boy wasn't being coached. He was being raised. Courtrooms are strange places. Too clean. Too quiet. As if pain doesn't belong in their walls. Claire sat across from me, sharp in her suit, eyes colder than I remembered. Daniel wasn't there. Thank God. I kept reminding myself this wasn't about revenge. It was about protecting the child who had chosen me long before a judge ever would. Her lawyer spoke first, sharp and cutting, insisting I had no biological claim, no legal right, no authority to stand between mother and son. Then my lawyer stood, calm, prepared, laying down records of every school drop-off, every doctor's visit, every bedtime story. She showed the letters. She showed the proof, and then, just when I thought the hearing might drag into endless words, a voice rose from the back of the room. "I'd like to say something." Everyone turned. Claire's mother, Margaret, stood. Her steps were slow, but her voice was steady. She walked to the front, raised her hand, and took the oath. Then she looked first at her daughter, then at the judge. "If this court wants to know who Daniel belongs to," she said, "ask the boy. He calls Mark Dad. Not because anyone told him to, but because he was loved into it. My daughter gave him birth, but this man gave him a father." The room went silent. Even Claire's lawyer had no words. Claire herself looked shaken, as though the last support she thought she had was gone. Margaret sat down without another word. She didn't need to say more. The silence in that room was louder than any testimony. The judge cleared his throat, shuffled the papers in front of him, and finally spoke. "The petition is denied. Custody remains with Mr. Reynolds. But before he could say more, Claire rose. Her voice, for the first time in years, was stripped of arrogance. Your Honor, she said softly, I withdraw my petition. I came here thinking I could reclaim what I lost. But the truth is, I didn't lose Daniel. I left him. And this man gave him what I couldn't. Gasps rippled through the room. Even I sat stunned. She lowered her head, whispered one last, thank you, and walked out of that courtroom defeated. I stayed seated, steady, holding on to the only truth that mattered. I wasn't Daniel's father by blood, but by love, by presence, by choice. I was the only father he would ever need, and now, even the law agreed. Life has a way of stitching together what betrayal once tore apart. Weeks after the courtroom, I came home to find Daniel at the kitchen table, crayons scattered around him, his little tongue pressed against his lip in concentration. When he handed me the paper, I froze. 3 figures, drawn in crooked lines. One tall man, one woman with long hair, and a boy grinning in the middle. Above it, written in bold, Uneven letters Daddy, Mommy Rachel, me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. That piece of paper, smudged with fingerprints and crayon dust, was worth more than every certificate, every ruling, every verdict I had ever received. It was the only proof I needed. I pressed a magnet onto the fridge and placed the drawing dead center, where it belonged, not hidden, not buried, proud, permanent. Because it wasn't just a picture, it was a declaration. A boy who had once feared being left behind now knew he had a family that would never walk away. And as I stood there, looking at that drawing, I realized something. Betrayal doesn't just break a man. It remakes him. I had lost a wife, but I had gained something greater, the respect of my son, and the peace of my own conscience. So I'll ask you this. Gentlemen, if you had stood where I stood, would you have chosen rage or justice? If this story speaks to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you would have done. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of betrayal, survival, and the kind of justice that remakes a man from the ashes of his pain.